these online course systems that we like. You mentioned the ability to have grades posted online. I think, Adam, you mentioned the ability to post your assignments digitally.
Mr. Flaherty had that.
Okay, Mr. Flaherty. Are there any other key features or functions of the online course management systems that you really like, that really work well for you?
I think just, in the nature of an online course, I think it's sort of like I'm being a little critical that I'm saying, well, you can't engage in fruitful discussion, but at the same time, I do like the convenience factor of it. I do think just being on your own time thing is nice. Being able to, pick up a podcasted lecture or have, if there was some way to have like a chat discussion, which I know Blackboard has, but it never gets utilized for courses. I think that is nice, and being able to sort of time shift when you're taking the class is great. And I do definitely want to second the online grades thing. That's huge, being able to go and actually check online what you got wrong, what you got right, and what is, and what the grades are in real time. I think that's awesome, and I'm surprised that there are people who are actually opposed to that.
I think I appreciate professors' care. A lot of times I'm posting all the materials we need to Blackboard, so you can just access your account and you have instant access to all the syllabus. Even though they print it out and give it to you, you will undoubtedly lose it every single time. So it's nice to be able to access that and print it out. Yeah, the online grades feature is excellent. But again, yeah, the quick access to all the materials we need are usually posted on the site, so that's a great feature for Blackboard or Sakai.
So also on the sort of second, third, fourth, fifth, everything being in one place. If you lose it, you can go print it, or you can just have it on your computer so you don't need to even print, which is great. But another thing I wanted to highlight is having some standard across campus for technology. We talked a lot about sort of the divide and what we're expected to know. And it's really great to go into that class and know, okay, if I just know Sakai, I can get through this. There are some professors who like to go off and use all sorts of crazy things, and as a student, I would advise against that because it's frustrating to students who don't know how to use the technology, and it becomes very demotivating, if that's a word.
Can you give examples of what you mean by these alternate technologies?
I think a lot of different professors I've worked with use different blogging sites, whether it's WordPress or Blogspot, which there's blogging options through both Sakai and Blackboard, which can most of the time do what they want. I've had professors give tests and quizzes in Google Forms, which isn't the best. It's just not. It's pretty easy to use, but it's not the best. All sorts of stuff, but it's better when we have the consistency. And for the most part, I think on this campus at least, we do have the consistency because of the course management system.
Justine just said, I think when it comes to tailoring the user experience for faculty, staff, and students, the lowest common denominator in terms of difficulty is the best way to go. It is a demotivator when you're struggling to figure out something. And I can play with it as much as I want, but I know if I'm having problems trying to get something to work, the rest of the class is most likely struggling as well.
Yeah. Actually, I am in a Spanish class right now. We're using Kia, which has been interesting. On top of the fact we had to buy the textbook, and then it was like another $100 to get on Kia. There were like 4 books available for the class. The professor didn't know which one it was, and so people were buying the wrong books. And then when you get in there, like it's not the best user interface. So I think again, the simpler, the more sense it makes, lowest common denominator. Is definitely better.
Just to add on to that, with books, I actually have a professor who was able to put the book as an e-textbook right into the course in Sakai, and that is, I think, just fantastic because it's literally everything in one spot. Of course, if the course management system doesn't work that day, we're all in a lot of trouble, but that doesn't tend to happen here. So I think that helps a lot.
Okay, good. So now, Rob has already offered one comment on this, but let's move from course management to really an online course, if you will, and not simply just the online management part of the course, but if you could compare for us, please, the effectiveness of an online course versus a traditional classroom experience.
Well, my online class experience has been absolutely terrible. I'd say for classes like introductory level classes, they're probably great in terms of difficulty. I took a quantitative mass media research methods class, which is basic stats, and I have to say it was the professor decided just to use the Blogspot. It was a private blog, and we would submit our answers to an email. So we would lecture through, you just read it, do some homework problems, and mail it off. That's fine and it works. But for anything of any difficulty, basic stats is really not that difficult. So it's fine. But if you're doing something way harder, I would shy away from it from just my own personal experience. I've yet to see any acceptable online system that works. Mostly, I just haven't been exposed to it, but if somebody knows or seen something decent, that would be awesome. But that's just, I just kind of shudder at the thought of taking an online class. It's just not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, I think I already kind of said most of what I wanted to say about online classes. But I will say, I think the most effective thing that I've seen, at least in online classes, is I prefer a hybrid class. I just think hybrid classes are so much better. I don't think there's anything that can, again, really replace a brick and mortar classroom experience quite yet. I don't know, I feel like being able to have interaction in person is so much better than using online course elements in the classroom. I took a class that was politics in East Asia, right? And we were certainly engaging in the classroom and talking about all these really complex issues, but then we would go on a blog at night and we would do extra readings and do some work on there, and there was a quick component of the class that was online, and that was excellent. But I couldn't imagine talking about these complex issues, really engaging with them through any kind of strictly online format, at least as I know of it.
Okay, thanks. Interesting.
Yeah, I love that term brick and mortar, because that's exactly like my perspective. At the end of the day, nothing can beat that in-classroom experience. But then again, that's just how I learn best. I feel like online courses do have their place. I feel that it's an excellent tool, especially for students with really busy schedules and just need that extra credit or two. An online course can definitely fulfill that requirement. However, I think that there needs to be carefully looked at in terms of interaction. I really appreciate, I think, the hybrid more than just a hybrid giving more opportunities to perhaps Skype or see the professor or really see your fellow classmates or have times to check in, because it's about accountability, I feel. But again, that's just my perspective and how I think it works best.
Alright, so before I start talking, I am going to admit I've never taken a full online course, just because it hasn't worked out in one of the classes that I've needed will. But I know a lot of people who have taken them, and I've worked around them and with them, so I do have a few things that I'd like to add. I think as Adam said, intro classes are a lot better. I definitely agree with that. If the topic matter is an overview and you create general discussions, and you don't need to get too specific or work in too specific with groups, I think it works a lot better. It's great for time and location. If you can't fit a course in, sometimes that course that you need to take before you graduate isn't offered that semester, and you can do it over the summer, and it means you graduate on time. It's great from that aspect. But I think you do lose a lot. As I've said, the connection that I don't think is quite there. But a lot of people get to know their professors really well, and their professors can help them out with a lot of things, whether it's an internship or finding an opportunity be on campus, or just directing them towards more resources that they're interested in. And I think you lose that for an online class a lot of the time. It's a lot harder, at least, to email or try to Skype, but that's definitely a positive of why higher education is here, because as we all know, who you know these days can mean a lot in terms of what happens in your career, your life, and stuff.
Thank you. So let's transition back into the traditional classroom for a moment. And obviously there's a diverse range of teaching styles among the faculty that you had an opportunity to interface with. And some faculty are quite conversant with using digital technologies. Others are much more traditional. Can you tell us a little bit about your expectation from faculty in terms of their use of digital resources and materials?
Make sure it works. I was in a class yesterday where a professor was trying to play movie files through QuickTime, and the computer was just replaced. And I know for a fact he had encoded these movies in weird coders. And whether or not that's a fault of his own or the computer image that was put on it, it's really beside the point. It doesn't play, it doesn't play. I got out of class 15 minutes early because of it. But when it comes to trying to play videos or anything that extends beyond basic, put the PowerPoint on or let's watch a YouTube video. You're trying to play movies that you've ripped from DVD. Talk to someone to get it on something installed like VLC player or something like for Mac on the computer before you try and play it. I mean, it's wasting class time. I mean, I got out early, but that's just time's money and you miss out. So that's what I would have to say. So hopefully, please have it work.
Yeah. I don't think you can actually have an expectation right now of what a professor is going to do. I mean, I have professors that range from why a professor actually is teaching new telecommunications technology, ironically, he doesn't believe in cell phones. He's afraid that the new digital environment will bring a dystopian whatever. That's a very brick and mortar, like that's all on paper, emailing. And then, I've got other classes where they're blogging, where everything's on email. Other classes with those little PRS clickers, I mean, it's totally, you've got to be ready for everything. So I don't know if I can say that I have an expectation, because if I had an expectation, I don't think it would necessarily be lived up to all the time, or you've got to be able to adapt.
I think along with what Adam said about making sure that it works, I feel like professors should know more about it than I do. They should just have a handle, like Adam said, on their technology and what they expect from us. I also feel, as Jonathan was saying earlier, that there should be a level of consistency. Right now in my classes, each professor has a different relationship with their technology. That means not only that each classroom is different, but each Blackboard website is different. Each teacher's expectations of how often we use it, which is fine because there's a lot of different disciplines in a lot of different classes. But perhaps there's more consistency across the board as far as what technology we're expected to use, and then be prepared to teach us how to use it, because again, we're all not coming from the same background. Not all undergrads are created equal as far as what their secondary education was. School funding was a huge part of it, so each kid is walking through the door with a little bit of different knowledge, and you have to respect that and acknowledge it and be aware of it and cater each educational experience to that.
All right, so consistency is good. Like we said before, course management system creating consistency is very good. A couple of sort of pet peeves I have with professors. I think every professor should know the basics of the technology that they use. If they don't know how to use it, don't use it. And one of my sort of favorite stories is actually a professor who I had who was great. Learned a lot from her, but she gave us a presentation on how to give presentations. So, if you're going to give a presentation, this is how to do it. She went through an entire PowerPoint without entering the PowerPoint view of it. So you were in design view seeing it, and she's like, so this is how you give a presentation. This is really good presentation skills. And I'm going, No. So that, there are basics like that I think every professor really should know if they're going to use the technology. Another thing that bothers me a lot is when I walk into a classroom on the first day and the professor says, no using any technology in my classroom. Technology, yes, can be distracting, and yes, if you allow students to use it, they are going to not always be paying attention. They're going to do other things, but part of that is the constant connectivity. We have one professor who's saying you can't use you can't use technology, and another one saying, oh, well, if I send you an email, you respond within 10 minutes, and you're going, oh, okay, that's awkward. I think that for me, taking notes on a computer is so much better. My handwriting is terrible. Half the time I can't even read it, so that's a big plus. And a lot of discussion-based classes that I've had, the teachers who have allowed it, we've had richer discussions because someone will bring something up and someone will just Google it. And all of a sudden you have all the information. Oh, what year did that happen? Oh, here it is. So that's sort of my opinions.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm actually going to disagree respectfully. I kind of dabbled in using a laptop in class, in classes where it was available, and I totally found myself falling into the like, okay, this is boring, I'm going to go on Facebook, oh, what's going on ESPN, so I shut it down. I don't bring a laptop to class. I still take notes the same way on paper, and I just find that I'm getting a lot more, and this again, just is my style, but I get a lot more out of just writing the notes down. So I think it is frustrating for students who want to use their laptop in class and just somehow go on Facebook or on the other phones. But I still think there is a place for saying let's not bring the laptops to class, in that way. Unless there's a way that the laptop can be used, to really engage with what you're talking about. If you're on some kind of program at the same time or all sort of working. I had a class where actually the professor could see, there was a laptop that was given out, and the professor could see what was on every laptop. And I was like, okay, that's smart. A little rebellion, but smart. But yeah, I still think there is a utility in having, paper notes and not having a laptop in class.
Yeah, just a question.
I'm regressing.
Are you opposed to everyone, or do you like professors who will give you the option?
If the professor gives the option, I know what people are going to do. So I understand. I'm not mad when the professor says put your laptop on, because again, if you give people a laptop, they will not pay attention to you. But at the same time, we're grown-ups, theoretically. So being able to have that choice is good, but I definitely understand if there's a place for professors saying, don't bring a laptop in my class, they're not going to pay attention to me.
Do you guys often find it distracting when other students are Facebooking or checking email and doing that sort of thing in the middle of class?
Not really. It's really not much of a problem. I feel the privilege to show up to class and pay attention. So if I decide to not pay attention, well, that's my own time. I'm going to waste it. So I'm going to just disagree with you both and take the middle ground and say, hey, if you want to bring a laptop to class and goof off, by all means go for it. But that's just one day of class you technically missed out on. And if you keep doing that, well, you do well. So, there you go.
Good, healthy discussion. Let's turn to students' favorite topic, which is textbooks. And let me just get your perspective, because we now have more choices between traditional textbooks and then e-books, electronic books, or resources in PDF format. And can you just comment on your preference between an e-book or an electronic reading and a traditional print reading?
I prefer print. I like having that tangible product in front of me. I like holding it. I like doodling in it. I like highlighting. And I like being able to resell it at the end of the semester. One of the things, though, that I've done, especially with textbooks, is I've just got any people from publishing companies here at all? Good. I've become a big fan of my international edition textbooks. For roughly $30, $40, I've saved a considerably large amount of money doing that, and I've never had any issues in terms of the material being different. I know there's a big red not for sale in the United States and Canada. I challenge them. I know. But it really comes down to cost and effectiveness of it all. And if I have the ability to be able to doodle in it for the lowest cost possible, then by all means, it's wonderful. But when it comes to textbooks, like electronic textbooks, I'd appreciate them too. The Control-F function, the find function's golden. But if it's the difference between a $30 international edition or a $60 ebook,
Thank you, Adam. I'm going to need to report that transcription. While I'm doing that, maybe I could ask Rob to comment.
I'm just curious, if you buy the international edition, do you then manage to sell it to someone you know who's taking the class?
I normally, with my freshman year, I was able to resell the normal U.S. editions, but with an international edition, you can't. I just give them away.
Okay.
And so someone got a free book with my handwritten doodles in it and highlights. But normally, I think is it 2 years, the new edition, or every year? Normally I can find someone who's like, here's a free book, and that's the end of it.
I hope they at least buy your
It's a charitable.
I know.
Yeah, I think there is really, at least for me, still nothing that can replace. I sound like a robot. There's nothing that can replace having a book. You can read and sort of like remember the gist of where a page is. But I think there's a place for ebooks. Their price is fantastic. A textbook economics just made no sense to me. But I think the way that I do it, and I find to be best, is to actually read the paper book and then utilize a tool like Google Scholar to search for specific things. So the searchability function is awesome on an ebook. But I don't find, I find myself doing that thing where like you'll read a whole page and not get anything, and I have to go back and do that way more with an e-textbook, where I feel like I'm just getting more out of a piece of paper that I'm sitting down and reading and I'll be focusing on.
I had an epiphany. I can steal the mic quickly back.
It's got an epiphany.
I do. When I had to buy the Connect component for the McGraw-Hill Connect for my financial accounting class, it came with a complimentary ebook, which was the same book that I had purchased. What I really, really liked about it was there's a button that says helping or something to that extent. You click it and it will go right to the section of where the problem, where it will explain to you what the problem is and give you the theory that you need to do to be able to answer the problem. That, I think, is the best use of the ebook that I could possibly think of without them saying, go to page 322, second paragraph. That's just great.
Okay, thanks. Justine?
Yeah, I think I agree with my panel members here. My personal preference is definitely paper. I have to touch it. It's my learning style. But again, like Adam was saying, highlight it all the time. I think ebooks come with more technology than just a textbook. So by its nature, it requires either a laptop or some form of tablet. So I think that's a consideration that has to be taken into account. Again, individuals differ from their learning styles. I also think we have to look at the bigger, like, structural issue behind it, like why are we going to ebooks? I think one of the big reasons is because we say it's green, and that's a huge marketing tool. But I think we have to ask ourselves the question: is it really green all the time? So perhaps still a healthy balance is required, and again, catering to individual learning styles.
All right. I agree and disagree with everyone.
Be more specific.
Price is a big factor in buying textbooks for pretty much every student. I mean, if you go to the bookstore and buy all your textbooks new, you're easily looking at $500 for books. And when you're paying as much as most people pay to go to college, that's the last thing you want to hear. I was able to get one textbook for $15. It was a $125 textbook. The ebook was $15. So happy. That was great. I do sometimes like having the regular book, though. I think it depends a lot on the book, the type of information in the book. I bought one book this semester as an ebook, and it's filled with charts and graphs, and it just doesn't quite show up right on all the screens. So it's like, see if you do this, and you're like, wham. you know, scrolling through all the pages. No. So for that type of book, not as good. But there are some things Adam mentioned. The find feature saves so much time. Great when you have that section of the book and you're like, I know they talk about this. Where is it? You search it. I like that books that you have the ability to print certain sections. So if there's a section that you're not going to have here, you can print the 10 pages you need to read. And also being able to copy and paste out of the book for when you're writing a long paper and you're quoting sections. You know, it's not plagiarism, but quoting sections. I think that's very helpful. For me, the worst textbook experience, which I'm sorry to you because I think some of your classes might use this, is the instructor books that are put together with all the different articles in them, and you can only buy them at the bookstore. Stratcom uses them a lot. I'm sure the Stratcom. It was, I think, $50, $55 for the book, and you couldn't sell it back for anything. And that, it's like, why can't that be an ebook? You know, if that could be a $15 ebook, just a compilation of articles, that would be great. So it has its positives and negatives.
Okay, so staying with the e-book concept here, how do you guys view tablets like the iPad and the Kindle as potential tools for higher education?
I bought a laptop. I've yet to buy, obviously, a tablet, so I have no use for them yet. The iPad's really, really expensive and well out of my budget. And the Kindle, I got one for my mom for her birthday, so I get to really use one. So I apologize.
It's very nice that you bought your mom one.
Yeah, right. I definitely think there's a use for it. I think they have all of the functionality of like the stupid clickers, the PRS clickers that, sorry, PRS is here. And with what they actually have a lot more you can do with them. I just bought an iPad and so maybe we'll see if I can use it in class. But there is a question, I think, of in order for it to be effective, they've got to be readily available, I think. Like, you can't just be like, all right, now bring your iPad to class, because not everyone can afford one. And if we want to make the access to education fairly equal and make it open, there would have to be a system where those were provided, at least, or maybe subsidized.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. As far as tablet technology goes, in combination with probably the ebook, if that's where higher ed is headed, then we need to design some sort of consistent system. If we want all students, I think, to have ebooks, then there has to be the support behind it. As far as funding goes, because they are rather expensive right now still. So we have to ask our questions about maintenance, about IT support. They also have to look at, I think funding is just a huge issue because, again, socioeconomic status, we're all coming from these different places, these different